The funding for this video is provided by the amazing members of my Patreon. Also contributions from viewers like you. Thank you. Yeah, I started from PBS Kids. What you gonna do? Fight me? Anyway, roll the video. So, as I was filming, the more it went on, the more angry I became about this. While race may be something that's not super important to you, when it comes to entertainment, it's something that matters to me. Part of that has to do with the fact that my minor for college is in African American Studies. If you are unaware of what African American Studies is, it's a major focus in the understanding and analyzing of Blackness everywhere, not with just events having to do with war, slavery, civil rights, prisons, and so on and so forth. We also focus on the entertainment aspect regarding literature, film, drawings, and music. African American Studies is not just limited to non-entertainment because art is a reflection on what goes into our communities and how the world views Blackness overall. Therefore, it does matter to talk about how race is a factor that plays into our entertainment. This semester, we focused on the Black Arts Movement, a movement led by African Americans the day after Malcolm X was K-worded. One major factor to this contribution is that Black people wanted Black stories told by Black people, made by Black people. So many of the issues that contributed to Blacks in art was because white people were making the art and not bothering to ask Black people for help. The Black Arts Movement contributed to numerous pieces about how Black people felt about the world. They took their feelings and told it through their art. Race has always been a factor for Black people when it comes to entertainment. The reason there is so many issues regarding art overall is because people don't think it's not worth looking into. When it comes to the subject of race and cartoons, it can be a bit worse. The reason so many problems with Blackness and just non-white people in cartoons continue is because people keep telling those who think the subject matter is important to shut up and fail to sit down and understand and learn. Maybe you will see why it's important if you actually took the time to shut up and go into it. The subject of race and cartoons is one that's always mattered to me because I am a Black woman that loves cartoons. While race may not be important to you, it is to me because it has affected one of my favorite forms of media all my life. It's not my concern if you fail to see why the subject of race and cartoons matter, nor is it my concern if you don't see an issue with Black people not being able to tell their own stories, therefore also being erased from them. At the end of 2021, I watched a short film by the name of 20-something, which was a short film that was about Black women made by Black women, which made me go, I most definitely like to see more animation by Black women about Black women. And then going back to when cartoons were just now starting to become a thing, Black people in general had terrible representation in them, which was basically just white people finding new ways to pick on Black people. That's what so much of history is when you look at it. Because I'm telling y'all, white people knew they loved them some mammy. They did. So we have gone from this to this. Because we have been able to go so far from getting racist caricatures made by white people to creating stories about us by us. So last year I ended up reading a book called Wash Day Diaries, and ever since then I've been desperate for more slice of life comics about Black women being made by Black women, and just more comics about Black women being made by Black women, period. I think at this point, if you haven't caught on to the fact that Black girls and women like cartoons, then I really don't know what to tell you. Because every day I come across a new Black woman or Black non-binary person who has a great appreciation for cartoons. I either come across the ones who like the cartoons, I come across the ones that make content about the cartoons, and then I come across the ones that make the cartoons. And as of this year, I fall into all three categories. Let me give myself a little clap, hand clap, hand clap. One thing about me is that me and plenty of others know when they want to see something, they're gonna go out and look for it. So much of the content that I desperately want, I follow it. I am someone who wants to see more Black nerds on my feed, so those are the people that I lean towards when I'm following. So it feels a bit foreign to me how we know very little about Black women and how they were able to break into this industry, that being the industry of just making cartoons overall, not just limited to animation, but down to just graphic novels, comics, and comic strips. But specifically in high ranking, I'm telling you right now, can you name a black female showrunner? Like almost all the recent cartoons that I came out with, I don't think any of them have a black female showrunner. Can you sit here and tell me a black female showrunner? Can you? Can you sit here and tell me a black female showrunner for an animated series? Can you tell me? As of me recording this video, I can't tell you. I may find one in research, which I most likely will. Hopefully I can. But no, can't think of one off the back of my head. So when it comes to black women in animation and just cartoons and drawings in general, who do you think of? Because it could be a person. Think of a person. It's interesting because when I think of black women when it comes to cartoons and animation and drawings overall, I think of two people, and a lot of you guys think of these two people just as well, and that has to be Cree Summer and Kimberly Brooks. But Cree Summer and Kimberly Brooks aren't cartoonists. They're voice actors. So if we think of a cartoon black woman, lots of us tend to think of Princess Tiana, as we love her, we adore her. But Princess Tiana was created by 3 white men, which isn't necessarily a problem that 3 white men created the first black Disney princess, because let's be fucking for real, that most likely was going to be the only way she was created, if she was created by a white person. But for those of you guys who also don't know, Princess Tiana is based on a real woman named Leah Chase, a New Orleans chef and civil rights activist. But with Princess Tiana being created by white people, you know, white people are gonna do whatever they do. It is a contribution to the problems with Tiana's character. For those of you guys who do not know, it is something that everyone speaks about when we talk about Princess Tiana, because it's the elephant in the room. She was a frog for 3/4 of her film. That's why people were like, why are y'all making a live action Princess Tiana to turn her into a frog again? Why don't we just get a spin-off series like y'all did with Tangled? Because let's actually see this woman as a person and not a freaking amphibian. If I wanted to go see amphibians again, I will go watch Amphibia. And just overall, the movie The Princess and the Frog has issues. But let's moving forward. When you think of a black cartoon, that's the black cartoon woman we think of. Think of a black cartoon girl. The first person that came up in my mind is Libby from Jimmy Neutron. And as Jimmy Neutron did try their best to show her blackness, but at the end of the day, we most definitely can tell that she is a black character written and created by white people because of all the black stereotypes that went into her. So a lot of black female cartoon characters aren't created by black people, and a lot of the ones that are created by black people are created by black men. Which isn't a problem, but it just is another fact that goes to show you that black women make up such a small percentage of animation that there are black people here, but a lot of those people are men. Overall, when it comes to the subject of cartoons, it's very much male dominated. I'm telling you, most of the cartoon related channels here on YouTube are male. But more black men have more jobs with cartoons than women. And I am blessed enough and lucky enough to say that I am a black woman who does make a living relating to cartoons. Very thankful for that. It's no secret that I love cartoons, and I've slowly been getting into the process of making my own comic and my own comic dub. And because of this, I've been reading more and more cartoons about black girls and women of color in general, as I do follow a lot of black women and non-binary people who enjoy cartoons. It kind of took me out when I realized that I didn't even know who the first female black cartoonist was.
In the studio of Jackie Ormes, one of the few women cartoonists, the popular comic strip characters of Torchy and Heartbeat and Patty Joe literally spring to life. Syndicated in scores of newspapers, her cartoons reach more than 1 million readers each week.
If you don't know who Jackie Ormes is, you will most definitely after watching this video. I want you guys to remember her name, and I also want you guys to look into her work because she deserves the praise. I want to tell you guys a little bit about her and the legacy that she has left, and it's just sad to know how barely anyone knows much of anything about her regardless. So Jackie Ormes is the first black female cartoonist, and she made cartoons about black women for black women. And that exactly is the reason why you most likely probably don't know about her. Women in general are erased so much when it comes to cartoon history, especially in the 1900s, as many of them are left uncredited. Mind you, most of these women are white. There's so many white women that work with the Disney company that have just been gone left uncredited simply because of how horrible they treated them. Overall, when it came to cartoons, it was not really seen as like a woman's job, and it's low-key still not, sadly. And one thing about me is that I am the kind of person that is like, if you want to see something, why don't you go and make it for yourself? I'm very big, if you want to see something and don't see it, why don't you try and make it yourself at some point? Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that Jackie is the first black woman to make cartoons, because I guarantee you that there were others all around here that were drawing their own doodles and not really sharing them around. But she is one of the first we know of that was able to make a career of making cartoons. As there was most likely other black women out there that wanted to get their cartoons out there, but we just simply don't know about them because they most likely kept getting turned away and eventually just gave up on it. And that's the sad thing about it when it comes to black history, in my opinion, because there's so much talent out here that we don't know about because it wasn't documented. And then we also have to take into consideration about the intersectionality, about why we don't know about these things, because money, income, poverty plays a big factor into it. But also, we gotta bring colorism up into the situation too, because a lot of times when we look at black history and we look at these prominent figures, a lot of them are light-skinned and are light-skinned mixed race people. So we are lucky to have Jackie's work documented, with her best known works being Torchy Brown and Patty Joe and Ginger, which were stories about black girls and women just doing stuff overall. But it was seen as progressive because most of the representation for black girls and women in cartoons was just white people making fun of them. National syndicated black cartoonist Barbara Brandon Koff says that Ormes' characters and stories were real, at a time where blacks were typically portrayed in a derogatory fashion. Black women were always fat, she says, had bandanas on their heads, had large lips, were always porters. We were servants. Think of Gone with the Wind, we didn't speak clear English. The character of Patty Joe and Ginger, another Ormes comic, ran counter to that stereotype. Ginger was an attractive college-educated woman, drawn in a pin-up girl style. Her younger sister, Patty Joe, was sharp and opinionated. Nancy Goldstein, author of the new book, Jackie Ormes, the first African-American woman cartoonist, emphasized that Ormes did a service to the black community by creating role models with her characters. Readers saw that if Ginger could graduate from college and if Torchy could challenge the era's racist status quo, they were capable of doing the same. Ormes was giving voice to what was in the hearts and minds of so many people, the desire to move forward and make progress, said Goldstein. Also, one thing in particular that I really liked about Jackie's work is that she wasn't afraid to speak up with what was going on in the world. Like in her comics, that is how she expressed herself. Like if white cartoonists could do it, she could do it just as well. So when it comes to Jackie, while it's obvious that she did make this cartoon for her, as you should be the first person you're making something for, it's pretty clear that she made this cartoon for other black women just as well, because she was fully aware that she is not the only black woman and girl out here that felt these way about these nasty ass white people cartoons. Because as I said earlier, these works were just depicting them out to be racist caricatures. And while Jackie's work isn't perfect, as there are some issues there that I won't get into because I don't want people to feel like I'm dragging her when I know she didn't mean any harm. And then also we have to remember it's the 1900s. I will say that I admire how she stepped up and did something about the way white people were continuing to portray black people in their works. She basically said, if you're gonna continue to portray us in any kind of way, then I'm gonna do something and portray us differently, and it truly left a positive impact on so many black women and girls. Hi everyone, the captain here. I just wanted to get on here real quick and tell you guys thank you so much for your support. I have gotten so much fan art from you guys, and I've met plenty of y'all in person at the conventions that I have been at. And also thank you guys so much for coming to the panels that I host. It means so much to me. You guys are so great. I appreciate every little last bit of support you guys give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can say thank you 100 times, but I truly do mean it. Thank you. So this was a section right here that I felt like was really important to bring up, because oftentimes when we talk about the subject of black women in cartoons overall, Betty Boop pops up. Because black women feel so pushed away with cartoons, this has led to a lot of misinformation being spread. So when we hear about things about black women being mistreated in white dominated fields such as art and animation overall, we tend to believe it because the world has just a long history of mistreating black women. Because as I'm talking about Jackie Ormes and her cartoons, I also think it's important to bring up Betty Boop because there's just too much misinformation going around about that character. Because honestly, what people think Betty Boop is, basically the characters that Jackie Ormes created were what people thought Betty Boop was. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and say that Betty Boop should be thrown away completely. It's pretty obvious that Betty Boop's character has the black influence over her. It may not be a full-on black influence, but there's many features there, which is why so many people, including me, never really view Betty Boop to be white. And don't try to say some shit about that one movie with her having red hair, because guess what? Non-white people can have red hair. You're racist fuck. Like, come on. I'm not about to keep arguing with y'all about the red colored hair. Get out. But Betty Boop, in my opinion, is just a product of being able to sell blackness without black people being there. So much of what we see nowadays. You see how a lot of stuff don't change? You see how history constantly repeats itself? But honestly, we don't even really know the true story of what goes on with the case of Betty Boop. But there's just this ongoing debate on if Betty Boop was black, and it has just led to so much false information being spreaded. And I'm just shocked to see that barely anyone brings up the black female cartoons that were around at the same time, because it did exist. As a whole is a person that so many people just have no idea exists, because you see Betty Boop everywhere. And growing up, me and many other black girls, we loved Betty Boop. We adored her. We had Betty Boop purses and wore Betty Boop shirts and whatnot.
I'm not even joking when I've never even heard of this woman until a few days ago, probably like last week when I got started looking on this, because I just got curious on who the first black female cartoonist was, because I was seeing things about the first black cartoonist and it was a man, and I was like, I know there gotta be a lady here, and I found her, and I was a bit baffled by the fact that literally no one knows anything about Jackie. Barely much of anything is out here. You can't even find a lot of her comics.
And the reason why I'm bringing up Betty Boop is because we keep having this ongoing debate on if Betty Boop is black or not. Why don't we actually sit here and talk about black female cartoon characters from the past that actually were, that we were aware of, that were created by black women? Please. But it's a problem because she literally continues to be swept under the rug, and we continue to have on these debates about race and cartoons. And one of the most important people within this community is just low-key forgotten. Not low-key forgotten, high-key forgotten. Because also, for those of you guys who don't know, she's actually very important to the doll community just as well. Her contribution to the doll community is why so many black dolls were no longer racist characters after a while. And she also helped out with the civil rights movement, as many black people who created entertainment did too just at that time. Ooh, that was a bad mess up. But overall, Jackie Ormes is somebody that we most definitely should learn about. Y'all want to know a way that you can be able to learn about black history, stuff that they just don't tell you? Type in first black blank. It'll come up. First black anything. There's your history. Giving you tips on how to learn. So let's continue to talk about Jackie Ormes and not let her legacy go. If y'all can continue to sell Dr. Seuss, Donna Tartt, and JK ratchet ass works, and y'all let Dilbert go on for so long, we can continue to speak about the first black female cartoonist and her contributions to society. Because it makes no sense to me. Like, I know it does make sense to me, but it's still baffling how very little people know who she is. Like, even in videos that I found out about her on YouTube don't have nearly as many views as others when it comes to cartoon history. But honestly, it's just a reflection of the world. Unfortunately, black women and girls are often pushed aside and towards the back when it comes to comics and animation as a whole. So why is it that when I get on Webtoon, all the popular comments are just of pale colored people and palm colored people? When I go on YouTube to watch videos about Wash Day Diaries, barely anyone has made content about it, and the videos about it have very low views. Like Black Jose Press only has 2,000 1,000 followers on Instagram. K of refrigerator art only has like 12K followers and deserves so much more. Why doesn't anyone talk much about 20-something as much as they do to other Disney films? Y'all spend so much time arguing about The Princess and the Frog. Why don't you go and watch 20-something? It's an amazing movie. I know y'all non-black people sit here and you ask me all the time, how can I be a better ally to the black community? And the best way to become a better ally in this situation is to be supporting black women who like cartoons. Follow black artists on Instagram. Watch their shows and movies. Please go and watch Moon Girl because they got black women in the writer's room and it has improved the storytelling. Read black women's comics. Go and buy black women's work. But it is most important to come to an understanding on why they are creating these works in the first place. I literally will put up a list of black women and non-binary people for y'all to go and follow and support and end this video on that note. Because it is upsetting how little people know about Jackie Ormes, this amazing black woman right here. And seeing how forgotten she is, we can't let this continue to go on, and I won't let it happen with people in this day and age.
It is too late. He mixed the ingredient chemical X. Want to know what would be the effect? Is it dangerous or fabulous? Here they coming through. It's blossoming bubbles and buttercup too. Here to come to conquer the world. Beware of the power of yours. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. They coming through and fighting, and everyone they shocking. You know no one can stop them all because of the chemical X. Now that you see, you should beware of the power of three. They come to fight as fast as they can. They're dangerous yet fabulous because the Utonium made them eschew. They are the colors of pink, green, and blue. They'll catch you in the blink of an eye.